Good afternoon, everyone. It is September 14, 2019. We're going to continue the test of the Beyerdynamic T1 second generation. We just did the mids test a few hours ago, and now we're going to do the treble test. You may be asking, why so much so quickly? And the answer is because I just want to get to the real comparison. You know what I mean? I want to lay down the foundation for the sound signature for these things and then start comparing them to other headphones, because that's really where the fun comes, right? So before we get to the treble test, let's take a look at one of the review websites that reviews this. And this one is techradar.com. I hate techradar.com. Their stuff is so ugh. Anyway, here's their verdict. The Beyerdynamic T1 Gen 2s are excellent high-end headphones that are much less of a pain to live with than many similar offerings. They look more, well, normal than the Sennheiser HD800s and are lighter than most planar magnetic alternatives. Whatever. They say the sound is lusher and fuller than most at the price, which will either seal the deal or be a turnoff, depending on your taste. Okay, fine, whatever. Now, there is something here that they say regarding the treble. And the treble portion that they say is this. They're best when they are used with a great amp, of course, which helps improve mid-range definition a little and gives more volume headroom. Okay? Then, when they speak of treble, they say this characteristic gives the T1 Gen 2s an ear-caressing smoothness that distracts from the actually slightly pronounced, very detailed treble. I don't know what that means. You could say that I'm a complete moron, and that could be very true, but let me reread this paragraph. This characteristic, the luscious sounding and all that, this characteristic gives the Beyerdynamic T1 Gen 2 an ear-caressing smoothness that distracts from the actually slightly pronounced, very detailed treble. Okay, so is it smooth or is it pronounced treble? I don't understand what these idiots are talking about. And this is the type of nonsense that you run into when you're looking for reviews for very expensive headphones that people don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they don't even describe it properly. So this is not necessarily a contradictory statement that it's smooth yet detailed treble. It's not necessarily contradictory, but in the way that they phrased it, it doesn't provide any information like what the hell they're talking about. Okay, so good. Yeah, you want me to give you a what? No, I'm not giving you my email. Go away. Okay, so let's go to the actual test, the real test. We have 3 songs queued up. We have Scherzo for X-Wings by John Williams. We have 1,000 Years, a piano-centric song by the Piano Guys. And finally, we have New Light by Kazuki. Let's start off with Scherzo. And where are we? Here we are. Let's start off with Scherzo. I have the headphone plugged into the 789 with the SMSL SU8. Volume is at 11 o'clock. No peakiness at all at this range. It's a comfortable listening volume. I can definitely take it up. So I'm going to take it up to noon and see what type of difference I get. Now we're at noon. And with noon, I get a slightly more pronounced bass instrument, tubes. The drums are still pretty anemic even at noon. Meaning they're very, very subdued. Even though there's a big, giant barrel drums in this song. No peakiness, no harshness whatsoever. There's a lot of air in there, but even with that air, there's a good amount of substance. So here's what I mean. I can hear all the individual pieces in the orchestra. Like you have the brass group, and then you have the wind group, and then you have the percussions or whatever. And I can hear the way that each sections are playing, that there's more than one player, that there's 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. It's just that air carries the transients of all those different instruments, individual instruments in that group. You can't say that for every single pair of headphones, because there are a lot of headphones that will meld all those various instruments in a group together, and it just sounds like a really loud instrument, one singular instrument that's really loud. but the T1 seemed to carry through the sensation that there is more than one in a group set. That being said, it's still not hyper detailed. There's not a whole lot of energy in the treble region. I will increase the volume to about 2 o'clock. Okay, now we're at 2 o'clock, and that big barrel drum finally has some life to it. Really loud. And at 2 o'clock, there's that energy. Still not ear-piercing, but now you can hear it, and the ear cups start to reverberate just a tiny, tiny bit. Okay, so I remember watching The Force Awakens in theaters multiple times. And I remember that the THX sound from those giant speakers at this THX or IMAX theater was almost the same as the way that I'm hearing it right now on the 789 with the SMSL at around 2 o'clock. And the reason I say that is because the at 2 o'clock, when all that power is coming at the headphones, finally the driver comes to life. You have that big barrel drum that finally wakes up, and you have the orchestral pieces, the wind, the brass, the whatever, everything. They all start bringing up the treble region. They don't get peaky, they don't get harsh, they get a little bit close to that harsh area, just because these are wind instruments, for example. These are orchestral pieces, and the harshness is part of the job. That's just, you're going to have to live with it. But it never gets that bad. It never gets to the point where I say, I can't listen to it. 2 o'clock is exceptionally loud. Like, I could not sit and watch that movie at that loudness for 2 hours, right? If that music was playing constantly for 2 hours at that volume, I would rip the headphones off my head and go, I will never listen to music again. It would be that loud for me. But keeping it at 2 o'clock for this song gets all of that energy, because it's hibernating in the headphone until you start pumping in the power and increasing the volume. It's just kind of sitting, waiting to be used. Does that kind of make sense? So once again, these are not headphones that you plug into a portable device. It's not a headphone that you take and you plug into your iPhone or your Android phone. It's not something you would plug into a cheap $80 amplifier that you find on Amazon. This is a pair of headphones that really does require a lot of power in order for you to start enjoying it. Now, that doesn't mean that you go out and buy the cleanest, most bestest amplifier DAC you can possibly find. Spend $2,000 on a clean DAC. It's not what I'm saying at all. You just need to find an amplifier that has sufficient power. That's all, right? So if you save up money, right, and you are really interested in getting the most power possible, then you think about the Audio GD 1 amp, right? And that has almost 10 watts of power. And so you use that. It's not hands down the cleanest. It's not numerically the best. However, if you're just looking for power and you want to use it with your T1, then that would be a really good combination, because you have all of that power ready for you. And you may not need to turn the volume up that high in order for you to start enjoying the headphones, because the Audio GD 1 amp already has all of that power ready to deliver at lower volumes, theoretically. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, now let's go on to 1,000 Years by the Piano Guys. Here we go. Oh, that's too loud. Ooh. Okay, back to 11 o'clock. I had forgotten that it was that loud. Not peaky at all. It's interesting that it's, there are multiple pianos in this song. I think 2 to 3. And they start battling each other a little bit. They play off of each other at the beginning and at the middle of the song. And sometimes it gets really hard to differentiate their two tonalities. I can say that around 11 o'clock, I can't really hear the different tonalities. If I pump up the volume, maybe that separation will come. So let me try. I'm going to take this up to about 12. Okay, we're at 12 o'clock. and the piano sounds really smooth. Oh my God. Okay, so let me stop. Let's go back a couple of seconds here. And we're at 104. Now pay attention. I'm gonna try to explain what's going on. Ready? Here we go. Dun 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 dun. I'm going to go back. I think I missed it. Right there. Okay. So between 1 minute and 1 minute and 5 seconds, it goes dun 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 dun. Right? So that dun 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 that dun part. Okay. Sorry, I'm not very good at singing, but I'm trying to explain. So when it goes dun 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 dun, it's very soft and soothing, and then it goes dun, and there's that emphasis on that note. It's just really precise and incredibly smooth. It's not crisp, right? There's a difference. If it was crisp, I would think that's like, it's a little too much treble energy. But it's smooth. It's precise, and yet it's still very smooth. Meaning you hear it, dun, you hear it, and then you hear it a little rounding off. You can almost feel it, that it's not going to pierce your ears. It just kind of falls off. It's like a parabola, right? It just kind of launches itself in the air, and then you see the arc, and it comes right back. The reason I'm emphasizing that is because depending on certain headphones, if you have really trebly headphones, 1770, 1990, 700s, 800s, then there are frequencies that are just going to peak way too much because the headphones is engineered to have that treble part of the way that it reproduces. And so it takes that treble energy and it shoves it up a little bit more right into your eardrums. The T1, it doesn't do that. So you get that treble energy, you get that airiness, and yet there's still smoothness involved. And so you feel that energy at the dun, 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 dun. When that comes, you feel the energy, you feel the air, and yet it's not ear piercing. Okay, let's keep going. It's almost like sitting pretty close to the piano, I would say. The way that this song is being reproduced, I would say I'm sitting maybe 3 rows back in a medium-sized room. It's not a big airy song mix. So it's not like you're supposed to be outside in some big arena, but instead a fairly intimate setting where you have these pianos. That's the way I'm getting the song, which is good because then it shows you. That's part of the reason I'm pointing this out, is that it shows you not that the headphones can both show the big airiness where it's supposed to be big and airy, and yet it can still show you the intimacy that is recorded into the song. And I'm saying that I can hear that intimacy in the song just the way that it's being reproduced. Very nice. Very smooth with the string and instrument in combination with the piano. But even at 12 o'clock, it's hard for me to separate the two pianos. I can increase it to 1 o'clock and see if I can find that separation. At 1 o'clock, I still don't hear that separation. It's very hard to tell. I'm going to bring it back to 11 o'clock. So here's the thing. There's either there is no separation in the song, or because of just the way that the song has its characteristic, the multiple pianos, the string instruments, the brass, and all that sort of stuff, that the T1 is simply not able to give me that separation at the volume I'm listening to, no more than 1 o'clock. And I'm hesitant to keep cranking up the volume just to find that separation because I don't want to blow my eardrums. And I don't think that that's particularly helpful when you have... Hold on a sec. Hey, Charlie, stop eating yourself. I don't think it's particularly helpful to crank up the volume, keep cranking it up just to get that separation, because at some point your ears are going to blow up, or the driver is. And listening to at a comfortable volume, that's where the facts are, whether you're going to find the detail at a comfortable volume, because there are a lot of people who simply don't have the amplifier necessary to drive this thing all the way. And number two, there are people who simply can't sit and listen to high volumes constantly. I know I can't. All right, now let's go on to the last song, which is New Light by Kazuki. And New Light has layers and layers and layers of detail. And some of the things that you find in New Light are the wind rustling through the grass. There's somebody walking in the grass. You can hear the crunch, crunch, crunch. There's a guitar. There's a piano. There's also a group of kids that's playing all the way in the background. I mean, they're the lowest level. I mean, the kids are usually lowest level, but they're the lowest level all the way in the background. And sometimes what happens is you get a pair of headphones that reproduces that the kids really muted. You can barely hear them. Or it'll reproduce the person walking, but you can't hear the crunch, crunch, crunch of the grass, even though it is in the song. So let's see how the T1 fare in that regard. Here we go. We're back to 11 o'clock on the amp, and I'm going to increase to 12. We're at 12 o'clock. I can hear birds. I can hear the person walking. And I can hear the crunching of the grass. It's not a real crunch. It's more of a soft, muffled walk, but I can definitely hear it. I can hear the wind rustling to the grass. The kids are pretty muted in the background, really muted, barely audible. There's this underlying piano reverberation that is not particularly emphasized, which is good. I'm going to increase the volume to about 1 o'clock. Now here's the thing, something weird. I hear this weird reverberation, like... So here's I'm currently at 1 o'clock on the volume, and there's a piano and a guitar playing, and it sounds like there's a weird reverberation in the song that really should not be there, and it's never been presented before at all in any other headphone that I've tried. It's like you put your hand, you stand in front of a fan, and then you get really close to the fan and you start talking, like blah, 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 that sort of thing, where the fan is distorting your voice. That's the way that it sounds for some really strange reason, and it starts right around 1 minute of this song. Before then, totally normal. But now, at around 1 minute, it just starts doing this weird thing. Let me try again. Yeah, it's really weird. And the high volume, even if I go back, it seems to have that weird reverberation thing. I'm going to bring it back down. Now we're back to 11 o'clock, and it's normal. Totally normal. Let me stop, and let me go to a different song real quick. Let's go to Natalie by Milk and Bone. I don't hear anything remotely like what I heard with New Line. I'm going to increase the volume. Yeah, totally normal. So for a moment there, I thought, oh shoot, I must have screwed up the driver, or I did something wrong, but it's not. I didn't do anything. It's just New Light, and there's this low reverberation that's in the song that for some strange reason on the T1 at high volume is awful. It just really distorts, and it's noticeable. It's not like a slight distortion. I mean, it's ginormous distortion. It's like sitting inside a helicopter, and the helicopter is racing, and you're trying to have a conversation. I mean, it's like a really weird sound signature. And it turns out that it's not just starting at 1 minute and on. When I went back at 1 o'clock volume, really high volume, it had it start of the song too. Bringing it back to 11 o'clock, that reverberation, that distortion is not noticeable at all. So I don't know exactly what's going on. This wasn't present in any of the previous songs we tested in this video. It has never been present in any of the other songs we've tested in the previous videos. So I think the simplest answer, using Occam's razor, is that New Light is simply mixed in a really weird way, that the T1 and the driver is bringing out that weird reverberation that may not be present or noticeable, may not be noticeable with other headphones. So there is that. I mean, when we do a head-to-head test, we come back to New Light with other headphones. Let's see if that holds true. That being said, if you're listening to it around 11 o'clock, it sounds fairly good. The problem is, I think, the detail is still not quite there. I mean, it's good, it's airy, you can hear most of the detail, but you can't hear all of it, right? The kids are way too muted in the background. The crunching of the grass underneath the person's foot as he's walking is very much muted. And then you have this weird reverberation thing at higher volume. So, ultimately, yeah, not really an excellent result with New Light, but with the other two songs, fairly good. So let's talk conclusion. I think that the T1s are, quite frankly, easy listening headphones. If you wanted a handmade German headphone with good build quality, you're fairly limited, right? And on top of that, you want a very soft sound signature. Then the T1 is indeed a very good option. Look, I've had this for a long time, so I can't say I'm impressed because I've been listening to it. But when I first put them on, I was definitely impressed because I was coming off of the 1770, and I had had the 1990 for a while, and I had been listening to the Full Cal Elax, and so I have been exposed to headphones that just murder cancer to your ears. And then I turn on the T1s, and it's a night and day difference. The T1s just present that treble energy in such a smooth way. Now, I disagree with techradar.com, with their ridiculous commentary that the T1s have an ear-caressing smoothness that distracts from the actually slightly pronounced, very detailed treble. I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. I haven't found that the treble is very detailed, nor do I think that the treble is slightly pronounced. I think that is totally inaccurate. I have no idea what these people were listening to when they found that to be the case, or their opinion. I don't know what they decided to play with this headphone, what amplifier they used. I don't know. But this is not true. Not in the test we've done. It's actually the opposite, where there is treble energy present, but it's not emphasized. Even at higher volumes, it's smooth. You start getting a little bit of that peakiness, just a tiny, tiny bit. But it's not there, even at reaching my max listening volume on songs like Scherzo for X-Wing, where you start pumping that thing with more power, and all of a sudden, all the instruments come alive because the driver wakes up, and the brass and the wind instruments are playing. The drum is finally starting to show some substance, and yet, it's still not peaky. There's still a potential of energy somewhere there that's lost in the void. It's like a black hole came out of nowhere and just sucking up that extra treble energy. And so that's the way I would explain it. I don't think that it's emphasized, slightly elevated treble. That's not the case at all. It's the opposite, as I said. So, ultimately, should you consider the T1 as a detail headphone? No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you should consider the T1 if you want, hand-built German, relaxing sound signature, but with a bit of a bit of air and smoothness that isn't fake. And if you've ever heard the icons and you don't like them, then the T1 might be the right flavor for you. That's It's like having a cake that's way too sweet. That would be the icon. It's like, oh my God, that's too sweet. I can't eat it. And then you go to something else, which is less sweet, but still a dessert, and you go, that I can have. And that's, I think, is probably the way that T1 should be looked at. Is that it's not overly smooth, it's not overly sweet. It's just the right amount, depending on your taste. I hope that this has been of some help. We have just concluded the T1 sound signature test. Bass, mids, and now the treble. I have 5 amazing, wonderful patrons who are donating to me on Patreon once a month. They are very gracious in giving me a little bit of their money, hard-earned money, once a month, and I truly appreciate that. If you enjoy my content, if you like getting these reviews that are detailed and much more accurate than other reviewers, then I hope that you will consider donating to me on Patreon, becoming a patron. For a couple of bucks a month, you can really help me keep this channel going, helping me save up money to buy other gear and give you honest reviews about my experiences. Not just 5-10 minute long quick info, but really detailed analysis of each and every device that I have. If you are a viewer and not a subscriber, hey, maybe you'll consider subscribing if you like this content. I really do enjoy finding out that another person has subscribed every day. We are well past 400 now, and I could not be happier. Thank you so much for watching and contributing. Finally, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave them in the comment section below. If you have a request for a review with one of my items that I have in my lineup, then please look at the review request form in the description below. Follow the instructions, and I'll get to your request to review as quickly as I can. It's going to be a bit because I have a big backlog, but we'll get to it, I promise. Once again, thank you so very much. I hope all of you have a wonderful Saturday and a very, very pleasant remainder to your weekend. Take care.